presented by our friends right back here at bookies.com. And this, Danny, as Utah is wearing those awesome Southern Utah themed uniforms, which is one of my favorite areas in the country, is a pivotal game in this series. Obviously, game three, our first game three in a competitive series. And it really seems like Utah has the Nuggets figured out. The Nuggets have tried everything defensively. They haven't been able to get going. So that's going to be our key focus here today. What is Denver going to do dealing with Utah's pick and rolls as they run the most in the NBA?
Yeah, and there are a lot of different choices. And to Mike Mullen's credit, they ran even more different schemes in game two than they did in game one, but none of them seemed to work. And now it's kind of a question of sort of pick your poison, but also can Denver generate enough offense to handle it? And part of what Seth Partnow and I talked about this too, as well as you and I did, is that Utah has largely been the challenge from Denver has been for their support players to make shots at a competent level, and they have absolutely done that through two games.
Yeah, Utah, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA, as Utah wins the tip. We will get back to that theme, of course. Mitchell guarded by Craig, really their one competent perimeter defender at this point. They want to get Conley going. Good job by Murray denying that. Here's Ingles and Jokic with a good stop for once. Here's the drive by O'Neal, leaving it for Gobert. He'll dunk it easily. And the lack of help after Jokic switched out, Royce O'Neal, to me, has been outstanding in the passing game this series.
Yeah, and that's been a big surprise considering the limitations we thought he had going into this season.
They're looking for Jokic off the cross screen. He gets it with room on Gobert. Good defense by Rudy Gobert preventing the jump shot. Now it's Murray off the pick and roll. Late jumper is good. I thought Gobert, given the clock situation, could have stepped out just a little harder that time.
Yeah, it's a kind of a risk assessment sort of situation. I agree with you completely.
Here's Joe Ingles, who has dazzled as their secondary ball handler in the series. Ooh, switch. Interesting here. So Ingles has beaten Jokic, but now we're going to get a foul on Michael Porter under the rim. He is mystified at the call.
Seemed like a correct one to me. Did a little. Oh, it was a basic grab, but it was enough of a grab to be worth a call.
That, of course, a point of education. Cuts to the basket and post-ups. If you wrap the arm around the guy, it's a foul. Here's Ingles with the pass fake. Goes baseline. Not capable of throwing that pass to Mitchell with his right hand. Now Mitchell on the drive into the lane. Foul. He'll go to the line. Is that two already on Porter? No, maybe they got Murray with it on the dig.
They got Murray with it on the dig.
So Donovan Mitchell, already two 20-point quarters in this series. Game one, 57 points, and that is the third highest total in an NBA playoff game in history. He has been absolutely outstanding, but his role could change a little bit here with the return of Mike Conley, who left the bubble due to the birth of a child, but is now back, having completed his quarantine this morning.
And as a reminder, whatever stream you're on, you can ask questions there. We're looking at Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube comments and questions, so you can get it there. And if we are ahead of you, the best thing that you can do is go to YouTube because it has a functioning pause button. If you are ahead of us, hopefully you can slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, on your DVR. Here's Murray off the screen. Got good separation on O'Neal. The Jazz had switched the matchup to put O'Neal on Murray after he killed them at the end of game one, and he did a much better job. But Murray got the separation that time. Denver, who has shot extremely well from three. So another switch here with Ingles being guarded by Jokic. Ingles being forced to his right hand, takes the jumper, and I think Denver will live with that. Now, you could always go to Mike Conley or Donovan Mitchell there, too, if that matchup isn't working out for you. Jokic in the post against Gobert. See Joe Ingles zoning up off of Paul Millsap, who has not been guarded in this series. Murray, good rotation from Conley, but Conley grabs him and picks up the foul. But you see what the strategy is there. Joe Ingles zoning up behind the play off of Millsap, who's not a three-point threat. Millsap did set a great screen that time. I think actually maybe they should have considered switching that on the replay that they showed. I would definitely consider switching those Millsap screens. Here's Conley against Craig. Craig size advantage, but not a big offensive threat. They force Murray away from the screen to the baseline. Difficult three. Rebound Gobert. Excellent job by O'Neal getting through the screen. Now Gobert splitting the floor. Conley looks to attack, and they'll reset.
Yeah, and Jokic being back is what negated that. They had to go to a half court offense.
More switching. Mitchell blowing by O'Neal. That gets the blunder going. Here's the three from Conley, and Mike Conley is one of the best spot-up shooters in the NBA, well over 40% in that metric over the last few years.
And that's another part of why his addition is valuable to Utah, even if Conley doesn't have the ball in his hands a ton. He just adds a competent guy to their shooting rotation.
O'Neal went down. Then he recovered back to Murray, but he loses it in transition off of his knee. Again, though, you see the lack of shooting from the Nuggets. They couldn't take advantage when O'Neal went down on that screen. Everything just too compacted. And Utah had similar problems in their starting lineup when they had Juwan Morgan, but now with Conley, that is no longer the case. Porter has not gotten going yet. He has a size advantage on Mitchell, though. I would like to see them milk that matchup. Instead, Ingles going at, it's Millsap going at Ingles, and he picks up the foul. Yeah, the one thing that you can point to, I do think Utah takes a little bit of a step back defensively. Millsap now has more of an advantage. Porter now has more of a size advantage when they have Conley out there. The big advantage, though, for Utah to me isn't so much in the starting lineup as it is when you go to the bench units and you got Conley out there instead of Emmanuel Mudiay.
Yeah, it's a great call.
Here's Murray. Good job by O'Neal getting through. Gobert getting back to Jokic. Two-man game with Murray on the baseline. Goes into two guys. Step through. Air ball. Oh, he traveled. They should have called that one unless someone hit it, but then Millsap misses the jumper anyway. I thought Murray just shot it and then touched it again without anyone touching it. Here's O'Neal. Uh-oh. Woo!
That was gorgeous.
Donovan Mitchell. And I'm going to lock in a little bit more. I've actually been getting guys' names wrong, which is pretty pathetic. There's the post up from Craig, and they try to take advantage of his size on Conley. You know that's something they probably talked about. Hey, if you get a chance, duck in on Conley. We know that's going to be the matchup, but Conley picks up the offensive foul.
It's slightly different when Paul Millsap is going for an early post up and when Torrey Craig is doing it. Craig, also not the greatest passer in the world, so I think that's another thing that Denver can't take as much advantage of, though it's still worth trying, of course.
O'Neal back to Conley. He engages Jokic on the pick and roll out to Ingles. His drive, alley-oop Gobert, and Denver can't guard these guys. They just can't do it.
Yeah, and another part of it, you and I talked about the critical mass of dribblers and passers. There, it's Ingles is making a decision. It's a pretty easy one, but he makes it so well that easy dunk.
Jokic at range, pressured by Gobert. Split cut out of the corner for Millsap. Now they go back to the rub for Murray. And we're going to get an offensive foul on Millsap. That's interesting because remember last time, O'Neal, he couldn't get through that screen by Millsap. Quinn Snyder then complained about the illegal screen after O'Neal went down, and then they get the illegal screen call the next time they get that matchup. Conley, swing it to Mitchell. He had the open spot up, but the pass was off. Now it's Mitchell guarded by Jokic. They're really switching a lot here, and Donovan Mitchell is licking his chops, crossing over. Porter has to help. O'Neal, good rotation. Pass was off, though. Now Mitchell has to create in the corner deep, and that's off. So a couple of bad passes by Utah short-circuited that possession. They had the opening. Now it's Murray in transition. His three. Gobert has been big on the defensive glass so far.
And Denver's going to have to be effective in transition to keep pace now that we're already seeing how much trouble they have defending the Jazz.
Beautiful pass from Ingles, and the foul is committed. So lots of switching going on here by Denver. That's their new adjustment in this game after all the other pick and roll adjustments failed. And Utah has a lot of experience going against that with Houston. And obviously Houston a much better switching team than Denver is.
And importantly, they gave that foul to Paul Millsap, so he now has two. So now it's Jeremy Grant is coming in for Paul Millsap. Considering how conservative Mike Malone usually is, I'm guessing Millsap sits the rest of this quarter.
Yeah, although certainly the argument exists that they are better with Grant's increased mobility, transition play, and probably a better shooter than Millsap at this point as well. Get it into Gobert. Let's see what the ATO is. They want to get Ingles going to his left hand, and what happened here? Illegal screen on O'Neal.
Yeah, it was. I think it was partially off screen. Yeah, he leaned into him. I saw it on my second screen. Yeah, good call.
Murray pick and roll with Jokic. Big surprise. Jokic, there's Gobert's mobility again. Nothing there in the pick and pop. Now it's back to goal. O'Neal trying to help. Jokic forced towards the baseline. That's really one of the few times he's gotten good separation and a good look on that soft hook shot that he likes. And we'll get a timeout here from the Utah Jazz and a chance to tell you about our friends at bookies.com, our kind sponsors of this program.
Yeah, and a reason that we fit together really well is that bookies.com is really about information. That can be getting the best lines, whether you're interested in spreads or parlays, but also having expert opinions. And so you can get all of that at one place, and where you go for it is bookies.com/NBA. And something I love about it is that it live updates, which makes things really easy.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Yeah, so you don't have to refresh. You're always getting the latest odds, and you can also click through to legal betting deals in your state. They've got great expert picks. We'll tell you about that later on in the show here. We'll also tell you about our own subscription podcast service that is launching as of September 8th, dunkedon.supportingcast.fm. It's in all the show notes on Dunked On. So remind you about that. We've had overwhelming response to that so far. Just really amazing, again, that we have the ability to do this with this community, to take it subscription and go ad free. So we'll talk more about that, I am sure. But let's talk about some questions right now.
Yeah, I want to start with this one from Matt Cox. He's on Periscope. I really want to listen to you guys, but he's 20 seconds ahead on the TNT app. The best thing to do is use YouTube if you can. TNT app might be that you're on your phone, but if you can make that work, that's
well. He said he's ahead of us.
Oh, if he's ahead of us, oh, you're right. That can be a little bit of a challenge. Because if you're using an app that might not have DVR functionality, if you can figure out a way to slow it down, you can do it that way.
Yeah, you got to just basically pause your own feed at that point.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for those with DVR, but we know not everyone does, and that's one of the challenges of this format. We're doing the best we can. Like that's the way it is. This is an interesting one from Ken Morocco. When does Michael Malone's seat start to warm up? And I think a lot of that is about expectations. The Nuggets have been a wonderful regular season team the last couple of years, and they haven't been great in the playoffs. But I don't think that, yeah, I think they, quote unquote on talent, I think they should have beaten the Blazers last year. But I don't think that ownership is necessarily that dissatisfied. I don't, as much as you and I think he's not the greatest playoff coach, if you look at the whole totality of his overall job, I don't know that if you replaced him with anybody other than an elite coach, and you're probably not going to get one of them because they're not available and the Kroenkes are going to pay for it, that you could do a whole lot better. So I don't think his seat's hot for a while.
Yeah, also worth noting he's gotten a couple of extensions already. So,
yes.
And you mentioned them not wanting to pay for it. And also, like, they're starting 2 and their 3 are missing in the series now. Not like, and also Denver could still win this series. That's not impossible. I do think Utah is a substantial favorite at this point, having outplayed them as badly as they have without Mike Conley. But, if you wanted to compare where these teams are at right now, I would have favored Utah in this series with both teams at full strength. And I definitely think that missing Gary Harris and Will Barton is a much bigger deal than Utah missing Bojan Bogdanovic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a nice note from Michael Garay. TNT's app on desktop has a pause, which it does not on the phone. So you can try that out as well. If you can get that on your desktop, then that's another way to sync it up.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good note.
I think we're close to coming back, so we can save the other questions for next time.
Indeed. Yeah, so I haven't seen much here early on to look good for Denver. I think they're switching a surprise Utah a little bit, but they do have the institutional knowledge of having gone against it. So they're just going to get an easy dunk with Joe Ingles. Of course, we're focused on social media there, so there's no way we could actually seen what happened on that play. But that's why you watch this, right? So yeah, here's the replay of this. So they don't switch it now, that 4-5 pick and roll with Ingles and Gobert, and that's how they get that. Again, Jokic laying back in the pick and roll. He cannot play that 2-on-1 situation at all. He can't protect the rim. It's tough for him to get steals. He's not mobile enough. So that's why their base pick and roll scheme these last few years, as Gobert misses the free throw, has been Jokic getting further on the floor. But of course, the Jazz have killed that as well. Mitchell was really better as a distributor in game one, or sorry, in game two. Game one was the 57 points. Monte Morris has come on. He'll gun it to Craig for a three. And the one thing that Denver has done right in this series is make 3-pointers.
Yeah, and Torrey Craig in particular, I think he had 11 in game one. That was a big difference. I think of his points mostly as found money, but a nice shot.
Yeah, 11 points rather than 11 3-pointers. Here's Clarkson, who has been not too judicious with his shot selection, but to decent effect so far. Conley is out. He'll no doubt return with the second unit. Morris, they're playing Morris and Murray together. There's the mobility of Gobert getting out on Jokic in the pick and pop, and then excellent box out from Mitchell on Craig. Now they have a 5-on-4. Mitchell finding O'Neal, back to Mitchell. His spot up, good job by Craig getting back into it. O'Neal on the drive. What a pass in the corner. His three by Clarkson, knocked there. Now Clarkson on the cut. Steps back off the Gobert feed, and Clarkson has gotten 3 shots up in about 40 seconds. Jokic posting up. Pass went awry. He's got to just loft it up. Craig recovers. He'll drive. And Ingles with the steal. He's got Mitchell ahead, but couldn't get it to him.
Yeah, and a nice job by Jeremy Grant. He did something there. When there's a turnover, pressure the guy who just gets the ball so before he can look up and make a pass. And so Grant there, basically, yeah, it's not a Denver ball, but it's also not an easy basket for the Nuggets. For the Jazz, sorry.
So P.J. Dozier comes on. He played well down the stretch in game one in their overtime victory. It was going to him and Morris that kind of changed things. Here's the wide pin down for Clarkson. Alley-oop Gobert. Nice help from Morris. Gobert recovers, though. His left-handed pass sets up O'Neal, but the Jazz missing some open shots here now. Dozier finding Craig. He'll attack. Nice dig from Clarkson to force him to pick up his dribble. Now the back door, and Craig misses the layup, though. That's a killer. And he's now pouting behind the play. 5-on-4 again. That leaves Ingles wide open. But he did not take the three. That was a record scratch. Gets to his left hand here and pick and roll. Gobert slipping it early. His nice technique there. Gets his rebound. He just beat Jokic to it. And goes to the lefty hook across the lane. Rudy Gobert. And you just see the difference in energy and athleticism. Rudy Gobert versus Nikola Jokic on that play. Now
and then
Morris,
Monte Morris, yeah,
he throws it away. He's one of the great assist to turnover guys. But I mean, that's all Rudy Gobert there, Danny. Again, he's scared of him.
Yeah, and Morris tried to put more height on that pass, but he didn't really change the speed. So instead of having arc, it just flew out of bounds.
I mean, they're showing the replay of this right now, and ooh, 2-stroke engine in the background. That's nice. They really should outlaw those. There's another foul here, and so they change up again that time. They put 2 on the ball in pick and roll. Utah carves that up, and Rudy Gobert is going to go to the foul line.
And worth noting, Denver now has committed 7 fouls already, and almost all of their key players have 1, or in the case of Paul Millsap, 2 fouls. That means any one other Nugget committing a second foul creates a big problem.
Well,
and we're only 4 minutes left in the quarter. There'll be some opportunities.
You know, you feel for Michael Malone because he literally has tried everything in this series.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it. We've seen them try 3 different pick and roll coverages already here. And I mean, and maybe we'll even see a 4th if they go to kind of more of like an up to touch soft trap rather than like the little harder trap that they kind of just did. But that is really, really frustrating for a coach. You try everything and they just cannot execute it. They don't have the personnel.
You know, the other thing that's frustrating is having somebody with that sort of engine driving by your apartment a bunch of times in a row. But anyway, we'll move on. So we'll do a question from Thomas Baumbach. Do you guys think Michael Porter Jr.'s defensive ceiling is as a plus defender? He has decent enough physical tools. But I mean, I think especially with the offensive workload, it's possible, but I would say it's unlikely that he becomes a plus defender. I think he could be more around a neutral. I think there's a pretty clear path to that point when his recognition and effort get better. But being a true plus, like the analogy, even though he's not the same type of guy, is probably something like Steph Curry, where he can be a little bit more intuitive. But MPJ, he does have better tools, so maybe I should be expecting more from him.
What we got here for other questions?
From Ken Morocco, why are people not giving the Mavs a real shot? They have an all-time offense. I would guess that's about the about the more respect to the Clippers than lack of respect for the Mavericks. Also, generally, young teams, it takes time. You can think about the Oklahoma City Thunder. As good as they were, they had a playoff loss early on as well.
Yeah, I still like the Clippers in that series. And by the way, if you want to know what the schedule is going to be here going forward, tomorrow night we're going to do Lakers Portland, and then we'll do Dallas Clippers on Sunday. I actually promised my wife I would spend some time with her tonight. So that's why we are not doing Dallas and the Clippers tonight.
Also, good to do this one in case the series ends up going the way that we both think it might, and then we might not be doing any more of this series for the live show. We'll still be talking about it, of course, on Dog Talk. Yeah, it's funny because we've been doing the league pass stuff for so long. I'm forgetting how long these national TV breaks are.
Oh yeah, no,
So
totally.
you can keep asking questions. From Mr. Slugworth, does Carmelo stay in Portland next year? I am guessing that they won't offer more than the minimum, or the minimum plus non-bird. So I guess that would be a little bit of a raise for him. Because they'll have, if they want Ariza, they can have Ariza. They can do some other things, but they are going to have playing time to offer. So maybe he's interested. I think he'll end up somewhere else though. Maybe potentially with the Lakers.
Using the hashtag NBA cast, we got one here about Sergio Scariolo potentially having his name ever come up at head coach discussions. Not that I have seen, no. He's a Raptors assistant coach, but had been he was a Spanish national team coach, most notably in some of those battles with Team USA. So we got more free throws coming here for Utah. And this is an interesting lineup for them. We saw this with Niang, Jawan Morgan, and a center all together. So really big now. Niang, a good enough shooter to probably make that work. This is more of a defensive group. Gobert has been way short on a couple of these free throws. That's something to monitor. Yeah, we're seeing the numbers here in the paint. Denver only 8 out of 19 in the paint in the restricted area in game 2. That was the Gobert effect, although they did blow a number of pretty good looks at layups as well.
Yeah.
Here's Morris off the Jokic screen, Clarkson getting through it. Jokic looking to hand off to Dozier, but he's in the mid-range here. He's got the quickness advantage in the end. Gobert getting out as Clarkson digs at Jokic. Double team. Grant, his 3 over Niang is late. Now Mitchell can push it. Gobert still working the glass. Mitchell going right at 3 guys, but none of them have the height to stop him. And, I mean, this is feeling like it's about to be a blowout, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, Utah has the home crowd behind them for game 3, so how could they do anything else?
Morris, as they go to, I mean, because Denver was staying afloat on uncharacteristically hot three-point shooting, and they're not a great three-point shooting team, particularly without Will Barton and Gary Harris. Clarkson wants to set the screen. Now they bring Niang in to force the switch of Morris onto Mitchell. Late clock here. They're going a little slow. They maneuver the guys around on the baseline. Mitchell creates the space. Has to pump fake. Not a good look. That's twice he hasn't gotten a good look on those ISOs. Now Jokic has Gobert behind the play. Craig on the drive at Niang. Nice play. And that all happened because the bad shot for Mitchell and then Gobert not getting back. The key to transition defense is getting your big men back. Clarkson comes off of 2 screens, has Gobert rolling, missed him, takes the jumper instead. He's 0 for 4. Utah 1 of 8 from 3. Dozier at Niang pulls back.
And Gobert was back enough, and I think that affected PJ Dozier. Didn't push hard. Don't get a good look.
Clarkson not deterred by 0 for 4. Nashes it along the baseline, still working into the lane. Bucket. He has the size advantage on Morris, and he used it.
I don't know what would deter Jordan Clarkson from shooting.
Being out of the game. That's
about
it.
True.
8-point Utah lead, and they haven't shot well. Plumlee is at the table. Gobert will probably go out along with Jokic. Gobert tips it away. They've got 3-on-2. Gobert beating Jokic down the floor, who looks exhausted, but everyone else on Denver got back. Morgan on the drive. Swing it to Niang. His quick release 3. Another miss. Morgan keeping it alive. Niang, he's sealed off by Jawan Morgan, and Niang with the easy layup. Utah, far more energy than Denver early as well.
And remember, the Jazz bench is going to be better in this game than it was, at least in terms of personnel, better than it was in the previous ones, and that's what we're going to be getting at soon.
Gobert bothering Jokic again, who looks really tired right now, doesn't he?
Yes.
Back to goal, passes it out. Three from Craig. Again, that's just not the guy that you want in that situation. Now
Oh,
Jokic is
Gobert's
back
gonna beat
again.
Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic says, "Hey, go get him for me, PJ Dozier." No, actually, he's a little too small for that. And no foul on Mitchell. Then here's the blow by Clarkson. Misses another layup. Gobert keeping it alive. Man, Denver is just escaping on these. Utah hasn't attacked these advantages that well. Gobert looking pretty exhausted himself. Here's a drive on the baseline from Grant. He's stopped by Niang's help. Mitchell looking to pull up, and they're going to back it out. I mean, this has been so long without a stoppage. These guys have been at the scores table waiting to check in for like 3 minutes. Mitchell has
these guys are playing
Jokic swinging it. Mitchell's really tired too. Gobert underneath. He goes at Jokic and scores easily. Jokic could not get back. Yeah, that's just Jokic jogging back. He's exhausted. Everyone's exhausted, but I mean, they get the 2 for 1. They get the bucket. Gobert, superior physical conditioning right now to Jokic. Now Jokic can't even hang on to the pass, and then he drives through the arm of Gobert, and Gobert with the lazy foul, and he can't wait to get out of the game. I mean, if I'm considering, you might as well just keep everyone in here for the last 18 seconds, right?
I mean, they would have if there wasn't a foul.
So Plumlee is in. It'd be interesting to see if these guys staying in longer. Yeah, actually, Malone is saying, hey, we're going to leave Jokic out here. We got the ball. 4-second differential. Why are we going to take our best offensive player out of the game? In fact, they put Murray back in.
Yeah, and in fact, Denver has the opportunity, basically, if they're forced to do something that I always want to see teams do, which is shoot the ball with about 6 left at the end of the quarter as opposed to like 2 or 1. So it gives you actually a chance to get a rebound.
Yes, they do leave Gobert in the game. Murray will run the time down. He'll run the pick and roll with Jokic. They switch the angle. Now Murray attacking to his right, going at Gobert for the dunk. And Gobert, looking a little bit tired that time. Maybe Tony Bradley would have done better in that specific situation. Mitchell with a chance here at the end. He hasn't had a great half. And we're going to get a foul. I think that's the foul. No, it's not a foul to give. I think
Denver's committed a bunch of fouls in this quarter.
Yeah, they're going to say that Murray tripped Gobert, so he'll have a couple of free throws. He's going to have to do better on that.
And that's also Jamal Murray's second foul.
Continuing discussion going on, but it should result in Gobert at the foul line. The big Frenchman, though, hasn't shot it well from the line. He's 1 of 4. I think he's now. That made him 1 of 4. Sorry, we're a little bit behind the box score here, particularly because there's much more of a delay on the TV than there usually is because of all the swearing that the cameras can pick up now.
Yeah, I still need to read Chris Herring's piece. I've been saving it kind of as a piece dessert for a couple days now.
Here's Morris gets a good look at the end, but misses.
So we're at the end of one quarter. Not only, 25-14 is a ludicrously low score. But when you look at the offensive ratings, Denver, 14 points on 23 possessions. That is a 60.9 offensive rating, 39% true shooting. They've turned the ball over on more than a quarter of their possessions, 26. And so the Jazz, I think they've missed some shots they would normally make. They are 1 of 9 from 3 on mostly good looks. And they're still up by 11.
Yeah, I mean, and I think not only that, but they also have just had Denver's defense scrambling a few times. It just hasn't taken advantage for whatever reason. And, I mean, that Denver shot chart is just pretty ugly right now.
Yeah, Denver only 4 shots in the restricted area. They've only made 2 of those. Then 1 floater, 1 for 4 from mid-range, 2 of 9 from 3. And all of those 9 3-pointers are above the break. Nothing from the corners. And also, you could think about who's shooting those. So Jamal Murray has 3, Torrey Craig has 2, Monte Morris has 2, and Jeremy Grant has 1. So, I mean, you brought it before. Like, Denver had this unsustainable 3-point shooting. Part of it is just that they don't have that many great 3-point shooters available right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's for this team that relies on getting into the paint. 2 of 5, and you see what 2 of 5 in the paint, or sorry, 3 of 5 in the paint is not enough attempts because you see what happens when their 3-point shooting goes awry. Let's turn to some questions here.
Sure. Are there any assistants that you hear head coach rumblings about, or assistants that you'd like to see get a shot at a head coaching job? That for me is something I don't know that much about, because assistants, it's always secondhand info. Like we don't get as much of that. I know I've heard Darvin Ham's name a couple times. I've heard good things about him as well. But it's always a very difficult thing. That's part of why, like for GMs and coaches, we usually say the buck stops at the top, because it's hard to attribute credit and blame outside of it.
Yeah, I think so. You've heard some of the Bucks guys, Darvin Ham in particular, getting touched. But I mean, Kevin Arnovitz always writes a great piece on that. He talks to more people about this than I do. That's probably something that I should really do a little bit more. But you can ramp that up a little bit for next season, actually, like talking to more people about it, because as you mentioned, it is something that is extremely difficult to discuss from the outside. Ethan, sure, we hit on this already, but could Malone get fired if the Jazz win in 5? No, I think absolutely zero chance. They give him an extension. They believe in him. They had a bunch of guys out, so I don't see that happening at all.
No.
Now, I think maybe they probably should look at a new coach at some time soon, but particularly with the pandemic, the cheapness of the organization, like, no way.
Yeah, we can do this one quickly from Ben Ladner. How good of a passer is Donovan Mitchell? Seems like his vision comes and goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's better at finding shooters than he is finding the roll man. He's gotten better, though, finding Gobert, actually, since the restart. That was one of the stats that was cited by some people with the reports of friction between the two, that Mitchell actually doesn't pass it that well to Gobert in particular.
So now it's Denver playing with a largely bench unit. Jamal Murray will probably be out there, but they're going to have to make some real offensive strides here to have a chance.
So Conley is back in to run the second unit. He'll join Clarkson, Ingles, Morgan, and Tony Bradley. There's the steal by Clarkson. Clarkson's been good defensively so far, and now they throw it ahead. Bradley attacking Grant, who stops him. That is not good enough for Tony Bradley. Just got to take your time there and score. You got plenty of time and the size advantage.
And go up strong. Don't just go up for a little layup. They're going to call a foul if you miss a dunk.
Oh, Clarkson with another tip away. Man, he's been good so far. And then the pass is too far ahead of Ingles. He's able to recover, though. That old man core strength. Ingles missed the passing window to Bradley. Now it's Clarkson attacking Porter. Goes to the hook. Difficult shot. Bradley on the tip out. He's a great offensive rebounder. They'll run the pick and roll against Plumlee here. Plumlee out on the floor. They switch that. Swing it to Clarkson. Eluding Porter. His three. There. Finally, Utah gets one. They lead by 14.
That was a Pat Connaughton-esque flyby by Michael Porter Jr. there, but Jordan Clarkson very rarely doesn't shoot, so I kind of get it.
Did you see Michael Malone on the bench after that? I mean,
no.
I think he is. He just.
Oh, there we go. I saw it on my second screen. I mean, that's the look of someone who has no answers. I mean, really, that's what it is.
Mid-range by Porter goes down for his first hoop. He hasn't been emphasized so far. Ingles, they want to attack Porter in pick and roll. He calls for Bradley to set the screen, forcing Ingles to his right hand. Bradley on the slip. Now Ingles screening for Conley. Conley's three up top. Bucket. Mike Conley has two of the Jazz three-point field goals. Double screen. Morris rejects it, engaging Bradley. Bradley forces a miss. Then Dozier went for a wild steal attempt. That's leaving Clarkson open here in the corner, but Porter did well to recover. Then it's a three from Conley, though. And Mike Conley, again, Mike Malone's going to get a timeout. 18-point game. And dare I say it, Danny, this series might be over. Like, I know it might be premature. It's an 18-point lead in game 3. They could always win game 4. But it just seems like on either end, the Nuggets have absolutely zero answers right now. The Utah's getting so much better shots. Like, unless Denver just shoots lights out from 3, it doesn't seem like they have a way to stay in these games.
Right, like this isn't the same as what I was talking about on the pod yesterday, where when a team is down 2-0, they have to win 4 out of 5. That isn't where Utah is, but it is still really hard for them. Let's say they lose this game, which is not a guarantee. They have to win 3 out of 4. That is incredibly tough when we would make Denver the underdog in all of those games.
Well, and Mike Conley making a huge difference already here on the second unit. If that's Emmanuel Mudiay, things are not good. And just the overall lack of discipline from Denver. And that, they're playing players who aren't in their normal rotation, who are young. Like PJ Dozier just goes for a dumb steal in the backcourt. Michael Porter actually picks up Clarkson really well, but then because Dozier was out of it, that leaves Mike Conley wide open for a three. Like they just don't have the discipline. They don't have the athleticism on the perimeter. They don't really have the defense on the interior. And it's just been atrocious defensively for the Nuggets in this series. There's no other way to describe it.
Do you want to take a quick moment to talk about our friends at bookies.com? We might want to do some of those on the early side of this game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's do it. And we should probably talk about Adam Thompson, man. That guy's on fire right now.
He absolutely is. He's gotten 11 of his last 13 picks correct, and he's at 69% overall on the season. So the one that I think is interesting for today is both Thompson and Stroutman, because there are so few games now. I mean, it feels like a lot, but 4 is not a ton. They both picked the Celtics over the Sixers, and it's a 6-point spread. I think that seems pretty reasonable to me. I'm not great at thinking about the spread, but when I consider the structure of that series, that's not a big surprise. And also Stroutman picked the under in Toronto Brooklyn, which I believe cashed out.
Sorry, I just had a quick thing I got to take care of here if you want to take another question.
Sure. Well, no, I'll just finish this up. Go to bookies.com for the latest odds, expert picks like I just talked about, and the best online sign-up deals. And now I will take some questions. That's an interesting one from Brad Perlman. Should the Timberwolves go after Paul Millsap? I think it's a worthy consideration, especially if Millsap's price point ends up being lower, which it could be, especially if Denver's not willing to go overboard to pay him, if they're not going into the tax or anything like that, then yeah, I don't think you go crazy on years. Millsap has looked a little bit washed this year, but yeah, stability for their defense I think could make a huge difference. I think they're going to lean into offense, not necessarily what Gerson Rosas wants to do, but I think it's just with their personnel that's a way to do it. But yeah, I think Millsap's a reasonable one. From Dirty Dancer, will Fred VanVleet be max? No, I don't think so. I mean, he's looked very good at times throughout this year. He's shown more than I expected. But the big challenge there is more demand than anything else, because he's a very good player, but I don't think he's worth the max for the Knicks. I don't think that he has enough leverage. And when you think about some of the other teams with space, like the Charlotte Hornets and the Pistons, he would help them a lot. But I don't think that he slots in as, let's say, like the second best player on a very good team, especially on those teams where you don't have the number one. So I think that VanVleet, it'll be toned down. I still think he's going to do very well, but I don't think it's going to be a max. I will call you now. You get to hear me call live action. The last time I did this for an extended time ended up being one of the craziest sequence in a game. I was earlier this year. Plumlee trying to make it go one-on-one against Tony Bradley, and he gets fouled.
That's a terrible foul, by the way. Sorry, the electrician arrived at a time that I was not expecting. So sorry about that. That's these during the day. These during the day casts. All right, they get it in here to Morris. Plumlee tries to roll quickly. They actually switch this, and they're going to get a hold on Conley. So they fouled Mason Plumlee twice. Remember, in Game 2, they switched that action, trying to invite Plumlee to post up. And, I mean, that's just make Mason Plumlee score a basket. Like, fouling him is pretty miserable. And as you always like to point out, Danny, these early fouls can come back to haunt you a little bit.
Yeah, easier points at the end of that quarter.
They switched the Plumlee pick and roll again. Another steal. That time it was Conley. The Jazz defense has been awesome in the passing lanes.
I believe that's 3 steals for the Jazz in the second quarter already.
And Clarkson blowing past Dozier, who's been awful, and he'll get to the foul line and a chance to give Utah a 20-point lead.
Can I note that I wish broadcast said how many team fouls the team has before anybody's in the bonus? It would be very useful for our purposes, but also just I think fans would be interested in that. It's not that big a thing. Some broadcasts, I think Toronto's broadcasts have that.
Yeah, Portland as well, actually.
Yes.
So Jordan Clarkson, been quite an odyssey for him. 46th overall pick, purchased, might have been 45, purchased by the Lakers from Washington. 2 years, then in the big summer of 2016, a 4-year, $50 million deal to stay with LA, and was then traded along with Larry Nance to Cleveland. Really disappointed in Cleveland next to LeBron James. Actually picked it up there as one of their few bright spots, and then got traded to the Jazz this year, an expiring contract who they'll probably try and bring back. Conley helping on to Murray off the screen. That leaves Morris open for the drive. Conley taps his chest, saying, I shouldn't have left so quickly, and given up the bucket to Morris.
And damn it, Conley, now it's an 18-point lead as opposed to a 20-point lead.
Conley off the screen. Gobert rolling right down the rim for the dunk. And again, Jokic just cannot get there. Murray too late with the dig. This Denver defense sucks, Danny. It just sucks. Now Jokic trying to attack Gobert. Clarkson with the dig. Porter open for three. Short. Gobert again vacuuming on the defensive glass. Utah with a chance in semi-transition. Morgan tried to post up. Clarkson waves him away. Gobert's open. Clarkson missed him. That's okay. You got more chances against this Denver defense. How about a wide open corner three that airballs? Jokic finding Murray in transition. Attacks O'Neal. O'Neal backs away. Missed layup. Porter on the offensive glass. He hasn't done much on the offensive glass in the series, but that is one of his big skills.
And a nice job by Porter not being intimidated by Gobert. Gobert was kind of under the basket there, and so Porter just went up comfortably and got it in.
Yeah, Mike Malone went back to Jokic really, I think, before he wanted to. And, of course, Gobert is going to match all the minutes. There's another pick-and-roll dunk. Again, Conley.
I like that. I like that the Nuggets are turning the Jazz into the Rockets because they're providing so little resistance. You might as well just take threes and shots at the basket.
That's kind of what the Jazz do anyway. Although early this year, the great box out by Conley on Porter there. Here's the drive from Clarkson. Almost lost it. Now crosses over. He'll go at Jokic. Jokic actually made a play at the rim that time. Morgan leaves it for Gobert. Gets Porter in the air. Easy layup again. Another timeout for the Nuggets.
I'm assuming Donovan Mitchell is going to come back in this game, but I'm honestly not sure that he has to.
Yeah, and man, I mean, Mike Conley is starting to find it with Rudy Gobert. Remember, the talk early was that he was used to Marc Gasol as a pick-and-pop guy. He didn't have the chemistry with Gobert. Well, on that second-to-last dunk that Rudy Gobert had, he engages Jokic, and Conley's not really wanting to shoot it, but he knows that what Jokic wants to do is to get back to Rudy Gobert. And so he just takes a dribble. He's never even really going to drive it, but just to make Jokic think, oh, man, I got to stay with this guy, dribbles right into his body, and then that lets Gobert cut behind him for the easy alley-oop. It's really just awesome technician work there from Conley.
Let's get to some questions. Oh, well, first of all, thanks to Juan Zendejas. Just signed up for Dunked on Prime with the Athletic subscription. We appreciate the support so much. And that bundle, if you haven't been a subscriber to the Athletic before, it is a phenomenal deal to get basically 1/3 off both the combination of the two. Do you have an NBA cast schedule? We should be publishing it pretty soon, but the plan is to do Lakers, Blazers on Saturday, and then to do Mavericks, Clippers on Sunday, and then after that it'll be to be announced based on where things go from there. We're kind of thinking something in the 3 times a week schedule, but that's not a binding promise. That's what we're kind of hoping to do.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to do more than a couple days in advance because we don't know what the most interesting games are going to be. But yeah, definitely we got a Google Doc there. We're going to try and actually just create a calendar for it that you can just subscribe to. So then whenever we update it, it'll just show up in your calendar if people want to do that. But we got to actually, have fewer than 10 hours of games a day to find time to do this stuff first.
And launching a subscription venture and, in my case, writing a bunch of pieces for The Athletic. But we'll get there. That's a good one. How much of a difference would Gary Harris have made in this series? I think he would have made a significant one just because he is their best man-to-man defender on the perimeter. And so it wouldn't solve everything, especially the Nuggets help defense thing. But something that's been a reminder that's been said in the Rocket series in particular is better perimeter defense kind of functions in a way like help defense because you just don't need as much help. And so I think that Harris, I don't think the Nuggets would be the favorite based on what we've seen if he were there, but he would help.
Yeah, reminder, of course, bookies.com sponsors us today, and you can sign up at dunkdon.supportingcast.fm. And they also have a link to a lot more information about that in my pinned tweet at Nate Duncan NBA. Some of the questions we're getting in the comments, you can answer those there. There's a letter to listeners, and there's also an FAQ that is listened or listed there as well.
From Glenn Simonson, how much higher would Utah's ceiling be this year if they had Bojan Bogdanovic? I still don't think they'd be a top tier title contender, but maybe they could be second tier. Maybe, kind of be in that Houston range. I think they might be the weakest team in that group, but that is still a significant step up from where I thought they were. And I still think that if the Clippers make it through, Utah would be big underdogs in that series.
Yeah, actually, Chris Snow Space FL makes a good point that I had thought of, but we probably should have talked about on the pod is what if this Nuggets team still had Malik Beasley and Juancho Hernan-Gomez right now?
Yeah, that would help too. Even though those guys aren't the greatest defenders, it would just be more viability. It's sort of the spiritual similarity to the Grizzlies trading away Jay Crowder in the Justice Winslow deal.
A 2-pointer by Jokic mid-ranger. They run that's a Michael Malone ATO staple, the Murray for Jokic screen. But again, that's contested. Rudy Gobert got through that. Denver is not going to score well enough with mid-rangers to keep up with where this Utah offense has been. There's Clarkson. Oh, it somehow curls over the rim. And again, the size advantage that he has on Morris, he's used that a couple of times now. And like Jordan Clarkson is basically playing one-on-one against Monte Morris. Like he can just get to his spot and shoot over, and there's not going to be any help.
And that was a better contest by Royce O'Neal on the shot by Jamal Murray, enough to affect it. Not necessarily the reason it missed, but it made it harder.
Clarkson is open and said he'll curl into the lane. Gobert on the roll. That time Jokic helped. Gobert just dunks it on his head.
46-22.
I mean, Rudy Gobert is getting dunk after dunk. And again, like you just see every time Denver tries something, Utah just go to something else, right? Here's a 3 from Porter. They finally get a bucket here. This is Murray rejecting the screen. And then I think that's just an overhelp from Jordan Clarkson off of Mike Porter. Like Rudy Gobert is there. I mean, that's part of their scheme now is to get over on that pick and roll. But Michael Porter's too good a shooter. Just leave him like that. Conley, mid-ranger, easy.
And Utah's hovering around a 140 offensive rating so far.
What was their net rating or offensive rating in the last game with Jokic on the floor?
Oh, 160.
That's correct. Jokic right back. And Denver starting to find a little bit of a rhythm here with 3 straight buckets. But Utah is scoring on every possession themselves still. Gobert on the roll. They'll switch that. Then they just swing it to Niang. He'll go at Jokic. He'll score on Nikola Jokic. Again, Nikola Jokic just an absolute pinata defensively in this game. Sets the good screen, leaving Murray open for 3. Porter beating Clarkson to the rebound, and he's fouled. Nice attack by Porter out of the corner there. Clarkson could not box them out.
And a nice job by Porter. I think that even if he hadn't gotten that rebound, he would have been in position to get back in time. And that's what one of the things you're really looking for in a go guy, as Brett Brown uses the term, because you want somebody who can get to the offensive rebound, but isn't going to make it a 5-on-4 if he doesn't get it. I thought nice job by Michael Porter there.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, Denver, to compound all their problems, they haven't played hard enough. Rudy Gobert has 18 points. I mean, that shows you how bad your defense is. Here's Porter right down the lane for the dunk. And what do they get here?
I think they called an offensive foul with a hit.
Oh, yeah, the hook. Yeah, he grabbed Clarkson on the back. Good call.
And I mean, you do have to have some sympathy for Mike Malone, especially because he's missing some guys that he's trying stuff. It's just nothing.
Millsap is back now. Maybe he can help the defense a little bit here. Mitchell goes at Porter. Bad foul by Porter. It won't count, though. It'll stay on the floor as the contact occurred before the shot by Mitchell.
Yeah, and Gobert is now up to 20 points on 9 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from the line, 20 and 9 with 4.5 to go, or 5 minutes to go in the first half.
Mitchell engaging Porter on the switch. Backs it out at him. Drives. Kicks out. Clarkson on the drive. He mishandled the pass, though. O'Neal stuck way out in the corner, and he stepped out.
And even if O'Neal hadn't stepped out, there was 1.1 left on the shot clock. They wouldn't have gotten anything. So good defensive possession, though. I mean, Jordan Clarkson mishandling a pass.
Yeah, I mean, he had a layup. He just dropped it. Now Porter feeling it. A little bit hasty of a shot, but Craig with the athleticism advantage. Jokic looks like this is a three, a little short. O'Neal, who's an excellent rebounder. Now they'll push it again. Clarkson, wide the hell open for three. Gobert keeps it alive. Another great rebound by Rudy Gobert. O'Neal. Now it's Mitchell. They want to engage Porter. They'll just switch this. Boxes and elbows trying to take care of Mitchell. He'll just shoot it over Porter. Woof! 25-point Utah Jazz lead, Danny. I'm glad the cat is here because he's going to be more entertaining than this game pretty soon. Porter, Jokic just doesn't give it to him. He wants Murray instead. Here's Millsap for three. They leave him open. He makes him pay. Yeah, Niang, again, when they run that two-man game, that's what Utah is doing. They're bringing a third guy to the nail off the shooter on the weak side. Here's another wide open corner three for Utah again. I mean,
well, and think about the decision that Paul Millsap had to make there. He had to choose between giving Royce O'Neal a wide open layup or dunk, or leaving an open corner three-point shooter, leaves the shooter to protect it, and then that's wide open three for George Niang.
Yeah, and Mike Malone, he will just take his fucking timeouts. Like he will be out of timeouts by the start of the quarter. He'll even get it to the point of the second half. He'll even get it to the point, as bad as this is, probably, where he'll like have to take a technical because he doesn't have any automatic timeouts left to use at this point.
Yeah, because remember, coaches don't get their full allotment. There are certain ones that you kind of have a portion for different times. And so it's not like I think they have 4 left technically, but he doesn't really have 4 discretionary ones left. I think he probably has like 2, maybe 1. Yeah, it reminds me of when I was at UCLA, Ben Howland would do things like that.
Yeah, college coaches have a lot more timeouts to spend, though.
That's true. From Jeff Riley, are we done here already? No, but we're getting pretty close. From Tom, how can Utah reshape the bench for next year? Who could they target? Something that I really like for the Jazz, they have all these young guys that we've seen little bits from. All of them are under, let's call it, team control for next year. You know, Mie Oni and Martin and Morgan and Rajon Tucker. So I think that'll be an important part of it. If they can hopefully have Conley and Mitchell, then you can kind of have one of those guys handle the ball. So I would say another competent wing, I think, would be a nice thing. And I mean, Bradley's been a solid backup center. I think they figured a lot of this out. And then for me with Clarkson, what they do is you offer him a lucrative enough one-year deal, but you don't tie up any money for 2021.
Yeah, I'm less sanguine about their 2021 cap space than you are. I think if you can get him on a decent deal, you could always move him if you really have some amazing option in 2021. Here's Jokic slipping the screen, goes at Gobert, and he'll pick up a second foul on Rudy Gobert.
Patrick Boy says this is contender for the shortest NBA cast ever. Oh no, I think we did a 1/4 game years ago, like in one of the early ones. We're just like, nope, it's done. I think somebody got hurt or something, and we're just like, okay, it's over. Then there was the hilarious one that we did. Was Sixers against someone, and we stopped and we went and got dinner, came back, and it was like a 4-point game, and so we just did the rest.
Couple of quick questions here. Denny of DFL, no, we haven't watched it yet, but we will certainly. And thank to Flopnuts1, who just joined Dunked on Prime. Conley, they'll switch this. Flare screen action for Mitchell. That's a similar play to what they ran in Game 2 to great effect. O'Neal on the baseline again. Beautiful pass fake for Mitchell. This is better defense from Denver, though, and I think they're going to get a 3-second call on Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the lane for about 8 seconds there, so that makes sense.
24-point lead. Denver a chance to make it respectable. That was probably their first good defensive possession of the whole game. Craig. Same play they just ran. This time Gobert got through the screen. Can they get a third foul on Gobert? He backed off a little bit, less aggressive after that foul, and Jokic has had the touch from mid-range. Just about the only thing that's been working offensively for Denver. Oh, O'Neal tried the backdoor to Conley. They're getting a little sloppy here. O'Neal had that same pass to Mitchell in game 2. Now Murray has the size advantage on Conley. Conley cuts him off nicely. Now Jokic on the pick and pop over Gobert. Misses. Nice box out, but Murray tips it away. Here's Millsap. He'll attack. Tries to go for the push off with his left arm. It works, and he scores. So quick, nice little run here. Denver with I think it's 6 straight points to bring it back to 20. And we'll see this next 2:23 to me is going to decide whether we have a game in the second half or not.
Is there something inherent in this matchup leading to Denver's poor defense, or is it more about injuries? I mean, they don't have great help defenders. That is, I mean, Jokic is a very limited center. That's why we talk about this with a fair amount with Harden, but with Jokic, he's so limited defensively that they have to run the system they do, which is paralleling Houston. But they just don't have enough everybody else, especially with Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he doesn't really help that too much. They don't have a ton of size, but the injuries are hurting it. But Denver, to me, as a playoff defensive team, when you think about the difference between having the Delete Eight and then you have the other eliminated teams and then an actual good NBA team, is that they're more capable of taking advantage of what Denver can't take away. And we've seen a lot of that.
Well, and you think about who their matchups were last year. First, it was the Spurs, not at all positioned to be a great pick and roll team, a great spread pick and roll team. Then Portland in the next round, they couldn't really spread the floor that well either. They had Cantor playing with one arm as well, which really hurt their pick and roll game. And then you had Aminu and Harkless, who are you could help off of them and make the pick and roll a little bit less effective. Utah is a pure spread pick and roll team. They run by far the most pick and rolls in the NBA. And that has really caused massive problems for Denver, in particular without Gary Harris, who was really good in the playoffs last year. Denver has picked up the defensive intensity a little bit. They're at least getting into guys. Some Ingles, who had a nice long rest, he gets into the lane. Another nice rotation. They're at least not giving anything up. Here's Gobert trying to go at Jokic. That's got to be a goaltend, right? No, it's not.
I thought it was.
It can still be going down before it hits the backboard. Now Conley will go the other way here. He stepped in front of Grant. Mike Conley, really excited to be out here in playoff basketball after missing the first 2 games. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a goaltend.
Yeah, and it is natural to focus on the backboard on a shot that's about to hit it, but that was on its way down to me.
Yeah, but generally the referees, that's the one that they're going to miss. Mitchell hasn't been nearly as involved, but that hasn't mattered. Ingles off the screen. Back to O'Neal. Now Ingles. Conley has Murray. They've got Porter off the floor. This is their best defensive group they can possibly put out there. That's why they're defending better. And, in fact, Murray with the block. He'll now engage O'Neal in transition. Oh, Mitchell with a massive rejection.
And Mitchell was squaring that up. He wasn't on ball, and he just lined it up. It was beautiful.
Mitchell in the mid-range, short against Jokic. Jokic running the floor hard. The big is not back. Murray, he had an open 3, just wasn't looking to take it. Now they get the post up of Jokic. Double team's got to come here. O'Neal brings it. Murray, wide open 3. Gobert late on the rotation. And this is all changed here, Danny, because they don't have Porter on the floor anymore. They've got basically their 3 best defensive guys, Millsap, Grant, and Craig, and they're getting stops and running to get good looks. The half court, they're going to be limited, but they are running to get good looks here off these stops. Craig coming up to double team Mitchell. Mitchell blows past Jokic, tried to draw the foul. See, he had him beat. He just tried to shoot it and draw the foul. That was dumb. Now Millsap, he's feeling it on the 2-for-1. Paul Millsap.
It's a 14-point game.
This is what, 12 straight points for Denver here? Yeah, Utah's offense has ground to a halt. They're not getting those easy looks. Ingles, they'll just switch this and then bring help. Got to keep Ingles off the left hand here. Here comes the help from Craig on the right side. Conley, he's got Jokic. Step back 3, another good contest. But, man, Mike Conley cannot miss right now. He's always
4 of 4 from 3.
Yeah, Mike Conley's last playoff appearance was 2017. He was awesome in that series. Now Murray gets it tipped away right underneath to Millsap. The tip by Murray is a little short. That could have been a big bucket. And that three from Conley was huge to me, Danny. To go in up 17 instead of 14, that's big. You're kind of pretty much maintaining the lead you had. If you feel like it's 14, it's like, all right, we kind of blew the lead here. Like, we got more work to do. So, uh, Mike Conley, what a half for him.
Yeah, and an 11-0 run right before that Conley three for Denver makes this a little bit closer, but still 59-42. Leading scorer Rudy Gobert, 20 points and 11 rebounds in just the first half. Only one turnover, no credited block shots, but a bunch of changed and altered and shots. And yeah, I mean, not only was it Utah starters outplayed Denver starters, but their reserves had a really big stretch. Clarkson plus 19, Juwan Morgan plus 16, George Niang plus 10.
Yeah, and Denver can't get anything at the rim again. 4 out of 10 after 8 of 19. They've only gotten one corner three. So 10 shots to the rim, one corner three is all. They did start hitting a few shots late there. I would not shock me if Mike Malone is going to start this unit in the second half, take Michael Porter out, and just try to find a group that can defend a little bit better. But I think Quinn Snyder, with a chance to think about it, they're going to just find more ways to bring help and really cause problems for this group that probably is going to struggle to shoot the ball with Craig, Grant, and Millsap all together. I mean, all of those guys almost really have like the shooting range of a typical power forward, and you're playing them at the 2 and 3 and 4. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here and get back to you in about maybe 10 minutes or so, preview the second half, and take some questions. All right, let's get back to it here. We'll let's take a question real quick first. This one from Art Vandelay 16. I really enjoy some of these screen names, I gotta say. Uh, what do you expect to be the most competitive series moving forward? He suggests Lakers Portland.
Clippers Mavericks. I think that's the most competitive, especially with Patrick Beverley likely missing more time. I think that's the series where the teams have been most evenly matched. I think Dallas can get there. Portland, I think Portland and the Lakers game 2 was more reflective of what I expect than game 1.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, let's talk about bookies.com here before we get going. And what bookies.com gives you is the best information. They update live. You don't have to refresh the page. You just leave that page open if you want to do some live in-game betting. I'll give you the halftime line here in just a second. But they also have excellent expert picks as well.
Yeah, and Adam Thompson, as you said, he's on fire, 69%. I think that's on the season. Mark Stropman is over 60% as well. And interesting, something to watch is that they were both confident in the Nuggets Jazz over, but because of the defense that Utah's played and some of the turnovers that have plagued Denver so far, we'll have to see. But especially if this gets out of hand and it's bench units, we could actually see that number ramp up. It's something I'm going to keep an eye on. But bookies.com/NBA, you can get the lines, you can get the expert picks, all of it in one place, live updating. It's absolutely great. And you can follow them at Bookies on Twitter as well, and that way you can kind of another way to keep an eye on it. And they also tell you about NBA Cast, which we appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's reset here for the second half briefly before we do a few more questions and what, of course, stands out in the first.
The restricted area. Utah, 11 of 14. Denver, 4 of 10. And when you also factor in that the offensive rebounds were equal, Denver took 2 free throws in the entire half. Jokic had 2, and Utah had 9. That's the Rudy Gobert effect and the lack of effect of Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, they even moved Nikola Jokic onto George Niang towards the end of the half. Then then Utah went back to their starting group. So that'll be something interesting to see. The pick and roll defense in the second half. Mike Malone has tried everything. It seemed like they got something by doing more switching towards the end. They at least have a lot of size on the floor. So even if Jokic is out at the point of attack, you can get more help, more guys who can recover, who are decent help defenders with that group. And Wither, Michael Porter Jr., I mean, that's another interesting question. You know, he is negative 18, by far the worst. He and Morris were both really struggling there, 7 points. And I think it's just very unlikely that he's going to be in the starting group here in the second half. I think Mike Malone feels the desperation right now, and he just has to get – Mike Malone's a defensive coach first. I think he's going to try to get his best defensive unit out there. We'll see whether I'm right about that or not.
Oh, we do a question from Colin Anthony. For the Warriors, what position should they be targeting in a big trade or the draft? I think it's not as much about a position as much as it is a skill set. You want somebody who can space the floor, because if Draymond Green is playing, you want everybody else to be able to shoot. And ideally somebody that can defend opposing forwards or switch. That's why I'm not as potentially enthused about a Drew Holiday targeting, though it does make some sense. I know that's something John Hollinger has brought up. But I think that the forward-sized guys that are both in the that basically they can trade for and that are acquirable, that's a big ask.
Got a couple of questions. First, Sokol Drew on Periscope. Do you guys personally place bets? Nate, Utah was plus 400 for the series after game 1. I don't. If I had actually checked that, probably should have looked on bookies.com actually, then I probably would have placed that bet. I mean, I know that I thought Denver would win the series after that just because they had got game 1, even though the Jazz completely outplayed them in game 1, and that's obviously what happened again in game 2. But I mean, I thought I picked Utah to win the series, so knowing that was the case after game 1, that would have been fantastic odds. But no, I generally don't do that. It just don't quite have the bandwidth to keep up with all the betting stuff in addition to everything else that we're doing. Then we also got this question. Let's see what you think on this one, Danny. Number of suggestions of like, why don't they try Bull?
I don't think Bull doesn't move his feet well enough. I think that could be a problem because the Jazz make everybody defend on the perimeter, and so you can't really hide it. But I think at some point it's worth a try, just because why not?
Well, I mean, at some point, like when Utah's up 3-1, maybe just to get him some playoff experience.
Yeah,
But
that could be.
I mean, that game that we watched against Toronto's backups, the last game we did it for NBA League Pass as we're back here. He was awful. Like, there's no way he would help. I guarantee you that. Murray off the screen. Ingles with a nice switch onto him. The deflection, but no, a foul called
Yeah,
on Joe
I
Ingles.
think he got arm.
Yeah, on the pass off. We don't have a great angle to see it. Joe eventually raises his hand, but guess what, Joe? The foul's on you whether you raise your hand or not. 14 to work with now on the shot clock for the Nuggets as they open the half with possession. They got to make a push early here. Try the Jokic Murray two-man game with the floor totally open. Murray, nice job engaging Gobert, but his pass was off. Now Jokic just has a gun from 25. Oh, yeah. Nikola Jokic, I mean, the one thing that they've really had in this series has been his three-point shooting, and it's back to a 14-point game. It is, in fact, that same unit starting, no Michael Porter. So the Denver, they might be able to defend with this group. They're going right into the post to Gobert against Jokic. He's got to give it up here. Tries that left-handed pass. Man, he loves that lefty hook pass, but you see the difference. If that's Michael Porter, he probably doesn't get that interception. Grant knocks it out of bounds.
Yeah, and you talk a lot, and I think it's right about how comebacks often start on the defensive end, and then you can work it from there. And so we've seen Denver be a lot better there.
Ingles attacking Millsap. You see the help from Murray. That leaves Conley another spot up three and another bucket for Mike Conley Jr. What a shooter he has made himself into in his NBA career.
And Utah now 8 of 18 from three.
Yeah, and recall they started 1 of 9. Trying to post up against Conley with the size advantage. Help comes from the top. Murray is wide open now. His three, man, it just misses. Utah attacking transition. So many Nuggets behind the play. Gobert running the floor. Ingles, wow, good job getting back there eventually. I thought Mitchell could have attacked more efficiently there. Ingles swings it. O'Neal tries to drive against Millsap, and he's going to get hacked. That's a Quinn Snyder special. He and the Celtics brought that into the NBA the most. The start your drive before you even catch the ball, and he caught the defense napping.
Yeah, and you create an advantage. That advantage doesn't always have to be for you to score. And O'Neal deserves a lot of credit for improving as a ball handler and a passer to take advantage of those seams.
And a shooter as well.
Yeah, sure.
Screening away for Conley here. He's hot. He gets into the lane, engages Jokic. Righty floater. Misses that. He had Gobert on the alley-oop. Didn't take it. Now the no-look to Jokic. Jazz are back, though. Three-pointer from Grant in the corner is good. Nice ball movement. And Denver regaining some contact here. What happens when they have to go to their bench, though, when they have to go away from this unit that's looked better defensively?
Yeah, when you have all of your best defenders at one time, you have to go away from them at some point.
Mitchell, yes. And Donovan Mitchell now, he's going to have a chance to eat with this group. Denver, it looks like they're switching everything. He's going to have a chance to attack Jokic, and maybe he'll do that to drive and kick because Denver is going to be very attuned to helping. Good denial by Mitchell on Grant, forcing Murray to turn the other direction to the two-man game with Jokic. Not really a great shot from Murray. Excellent box out from Ingles on Millsap underneath. Throw it ahead. They get a hand on it with Murray, and they'll reset now. Ingles setting the screen. Switch this. Mitchell attacking Millsap into the lane. Good defense from Millsap, but I think they're going to get Murray digging in with the foul.
Yeah, and if Mitchell didn't feel confident in that matchup with Millsap, which he does, could also have kicked it to Ingles with Jamal Murray on him, and that would have they created kind of two advantage opportunities with that screen.
I think that was actually on Paul Millsap, the foul. Double check that.
Which would be, I believe, would be his fourth.
Yeah, so that could be a problem as well. Mitchell has been on fire in third quarters, and it was actually Jamal Murray, but that was a shooting foul. Murray now saddled with the third. Grant with 3. Millsap only has 2, actually. Mitchell missing one of the 2 free throws. 18-point Utah lead. They've done a good job of weathering the initial push. Jokic, good position at the elbow. Going to run the split cut on the corner. Oh, nice pass to the corner. Craig at the flare screen. Grant can't take advantage. Now, Zap can't get the rebound. O'Neal pushing it. Going to Ingles. Good job. Ingles getting to the left hand along the baseline. His three is wide open. Bucket again. The Utah Jazz are a very, very good spot-up three-point shooting team. They are an excellent drive and kick team, and even with this defensive group, Denver's struggling to contain. Nice drive from Jokic there. Ingles did not get over off of Millsap. So that's his job. They want to leave Paul Millsap open in the corner, and Ingles needs to get there. Conley on fire. Oh, yes! And one! Mike Conley! What a shot! He is unguardable right now. Is that 7 for 7 from 3 for Mike Conley?
That's 6 for 6, I believe.
20 points, and he's done it on 9 shooting possessions.
Yeah, he's got that, as Tim McMahon was the first person to put it, he has that Fred VanVleet baby shooting stroke. And a little piece of news, unfortunately, not related to this series, while we've been doing this cast, Zach Collins has a hairline medial malleus stress fracture of his left ankle and will miss the remainder of the season. Per Woj and Chris Haynes added a little bit more to it. So that sucks for Portland. It means they don't have as many looks. Even if Collins wasn't necessarily he wasn't necessarily essential, it weakens their forward rotation even more. And I talked about why I think Mavs Clippers is the closest series. Nate is checking his mic, so I will answer questions. I think it was a battery issue. I think that's what Nate's been going through.
Should be back now. How's this?
That it sounds good now.
Okay.
Are you impressed with Houston's defense through 2 games? Yes, I am. And they've been really competing, but also I think that Oklahoma City has not done enough. They've done more, but they haven't done enough to really challenge it. I think that it will be they haven't really put Harden in the situations where he has trouble. They've done the thing you and I always go crazy about it, where like with Enes Kanter and with Harden, where it's like, oh, they're a weak defender, I'll post them up. That's what they're best at. And so we've seen that too many times, and that's been frustrating. But they team-wide, they've done well, and also just so many capable shooters. But yeah, Houston's looked great so far.
Let's tell people about bookies.com, especially because we may not have any more chances to do so if things continue in this vein. Bookies.com gives you a ton of information about betting. They also allow you to click through to the best live sports betting or pregame sports betting in your state where betting is legal. And they also have awesome expert picks. I recommend following them on Twitter @bookies, where you can get some interesting betting tidbits as well. It might inspire you to go through and make a transaction if you see some of their tweets as well.
Yeah, and while you and I aren't necessarily the most in tune to that, you can get the great information for spreads and money lines, totals, and parlays really wherever you want to go with it. Bookies.com/NBA is the way to go because you can learn and earn there. And yeah, it's great. They're a great fit for us as a partner. And these commercial breaks are long enough that we can see if we have any more questions.
Yeah, so this is actually a challenge from Michael Malone here. I assume he's going to try and get this turned from a 4-point play into an offensive foul, which is about the best value that you can get with the challenge. I didn't get a great angle of it.
Yeah, if it's not like a key foul on one of your essential players. From Jim, is there a viable path to building a championship contender with Jokic's defensive liabilities? I think it's tough to become a top tier contender. I think that you need to have one of the, let's say, top 2 offenses, something in that like undeniable range, and then you also need to have the right surrounding defense. I think they can be that kind of like they can have that kind of point differential, but then when you get into the best of the best, I think it's a real challenge.
So call overturned. That is a huge call for Mike Malone. He just saved his team 4 points, and they're going to get possession and put a foul on Conley instead. Although Utah still leads by 22 even after that, assuming this score is correct.
I believe it is.
There's another missed jump shot from the Nuggets. Mitchell looking to push it. He's going to have the advantage here against Jokic. They want to use that. Ingles slipping the screen. Gets a good look. Good job by Millsap getting back on him. Now they're going to screen. No, yeah, see, they should have Gobert so go set the screen here. Now they finally figured that out. Jokic switching. Mitchell, blow by. Oh, Jokic got him from behind. I don't know why Mitchell didn't just shoot that with his right hand. He brought the ball right back into Jokic.
Yeah, he might not have thought Jokic was trailing close enough behind him, but yeah, that was an incorrect decision by Donovan Mitchell.
.9 to work with for Utah. Mitchell getting open. Tough. Oh, he drew the foul. Terrible defense from Torrey Craig. All he's got to do is go straight up there late in the clock. Mitchell was nowhere to go, and he jumps at it, and it's going to be I think he turned his foot just to the left enough, so this might be 3 free throws. They may take a look at this. Catch you up on some of the box score stuff. Jokic having what on the surface is a nice offensive game with 15 points, 6 of 10. His assists are still down, though, only 3 so far, as Mitchell hitting the first free throw. Rudy Gobert, though, has completely dominated. He's got 20 points, 9 of 11. Mike Conley has 20 points, 6 of 6 from 3.
Well, and Donovan Mitchell making a great argument for the value of hockey assists. He has 0 credit assists, but has been the like such an important creator for the Jazz, just in a different way. And so, yeah, this is a 3-shot foul, and that's what it looks like to both of us.
So what happened on that Conley play, he was not charged with an offensive foul. But the foul on Murray was overturned, so it only saved 1 point for the Nuggets, not 4. That was surprising to me. Usually in that situation, the only way it's going to get overturned is if there's an offensive foul. I think maybe what they just saw was Conley was coming off the screen, so he shot it in a natural way, but also they weren't going to call a foul on Murray. Murray going at Gobert. Gobert calls out beautifully. You see the communication. He points Royce O'Neal back to get him, and then Donovan Mitchell bothered Murray and got the deflection. Grant lost it out of bounds.
Nate, we're getting in range.
Yeah, a couple more minutes here. The under 3 timeout surely will be enough. Also, I mean, the other problem is Denver not forcing any turnovers either. Conley, fake DHO, attacks, and I think they're going to get a grab on Torrey Craig here. Yeah, he put the arm out, knowing he was beaten.
Yeah, Utah only has 5 turnovers in the game compared to 12 for Denver, and Denver's not really forcing that many. The best lineup they've had has done a little bit, but we talked about this in the Sixers game, and that will be after this. That we're not doing it for the broadcast. Not forcing turnovers makes it so much harder to be a viable defense.
So Morris is in. This is going to be another foul.
Yeah. So does infinite fouls. That makes it harder to be a viable defense too.
Yeah, Joe Ingles craftily drawing it. Jeremy Grant saying, I had my arms above my head. But this is actually a shooting foul with Utah already in the bonus here. And, yeah, I mean, we certainly, if this gets to 30, I fear that we may have to pack it in.
And, I mean, again, you think about with this how differently we would be perceiving this series if, let's just pick a single moment, if that 8-second violation doesn't happen. I think Utah wins that game. They're now going up 3-0, having absolutely dominated 2 and won the first game pretty cleanly as well, though not cleanly enough. And we'd be basically saying it's over. Like, you and I would probably not talk about the series much more on the pod, but because of that, like that swing, it felt like it was closer at 1-1 than it turns out that it actually was.
Grant's hitting the 3 as they go under on pick and roll. Not really sustainable offense to me. Denver is actually 10 out of 25 from 3 right now. They're shooting 40% again from 3, and they're still down by 24. Conley has Jokic. Fakes him out of his shoes. 3 is off that time, but Gobert gets the offensive rebound. Now he's on the baseline, going right through Grant, but Grant stopped him. Grant got a hand on it. Gobert, not a great finisher on non-dunks. O'Neal almost had the steal. Here's the drive. Gobert with the interception on Craig. Man, he's so good, Danny.
Yeah, and Doesn't count as a steal, anything in there, but it makes it much harder for Denver to get a good look. Now they have to basically do a baseline out of bounds play and with a totally set defense as opposed to having Jokic kind of on the move a little bit around the basket.
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't seen Denver do any really posting up of Jokic. Now they're going to bring Murray out of the corner. Ingles switches on to deny him. Nice pass by Jokic into Grant. Grant, stopped by Gobert. Gobert just ate him up. He knew exactly the move he was going to.
Yeah, and he knew that Grant wasn't going to make that pass out to Jokic either, so he could sell out a little bit for it.
Ingles gets it up on the glass. That was almost like a shot pass from Ingles. And now, are they going to get Gobert here with the foul?
I think they are.
Yep, good call. He ran into him going for the offensive board, so that'll be
And
a third on
that's
Rudy
3.
Gobert.
Yeah, so that's, 3 isn't great, but it's not a huge problem, especially when a team is up 24.
Get it to Jokic at the elbow again. Screen out the corner for Murray. No, he guns it to Craig in the corner. He caught Mitchell napping. Oh, and it curls in off the backboard. I mean, Denver, they're have really found the touch shooting the ball from three. But again, I'm not relying on Torrey Craig and Paul Millsap and Jeremy Grant to hit threes. Mitchell.
Well, and if they're turning the ball over on a fifth of their possessions, that takes a lot off the top.
Ingles attacking. O'Neal on the drive. He got fouled. Didn't get the call, though. Drag screen for Morris. Gets around Clarkson. The rotation to Jokic. He loads up short for three. Ingles looking to push it in transition. Back to goal against Murray, and now they'll reset. They want to get the ball to Donovan Mitchell and have him go against Jamal Murray. Screen coming here. Let's see if Jokic switches on. No, they pre-switch it with Grant. Good communication that time. Get it back. Mitchell over Grant. Good defense by Jeremy Grant. And that time the Nuggets actually outsmarted the Jazz defensively, where it was really the Brooklyn Nets were the first team that did this when they had, I think it was Brook Lopez. They would actually pre-switch Reggie Evans onto whoever was going to set the screen, and that time they did that with Grant, so Jokic didn't have to become involved. Pick and pop, Jokic. Missing that. Nice rebound, recovered by Craig. Man, he's hustling hard. 21-point game as Denver's looking to make a last push. Morris, nice contest by Mitchell late. O'Neal, another great rebound from him. Mitchell pushing it. Craig behind the play, runs him over, and 2 more free throws forthcoming for the Jazz.
And that's also Torrey Craig's 4th foul. So, yeah. I mean, this defensive unit is on thin ice. Though, I mean, you could make the argument, Mike Malone, if he would theoretically keep Torrey Craig in just to kind of keep the lights on, might as well do it anyway because I don't think he's going to play a lot in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take a guy out with foul trouble down 21 when you're trying to make one last push to get back in the game. So Porter Jr. is going to come back in. Michael Malone hopefully sending a message here to him that he's got to defend better. I'm just not sure that Michael Porter has that in him at this point in time. Reinforcements for the Jazz as well, with Niang replacing Joe Ingles. I do think the Jazz have struggled a little bit more to find exactly what they want to do offensively here, but they still already have 20 points in the quarter, leading it by 23. Murray screens for Jokic to the elbow. His jump shot is short. Jokic not as good of a shooter on the move. He kind of wants to load up to get it back to Mitchell. They want to involve here Mike Porter going right after him. Again, Mitchell crossover into the lane, floater, better defense, but Gobert Jokic completely whiffed on the box out that time. They want to go after Porter again. Instead, Clarkson has Morris. He's liked that matchup. Good help from Porter. A nice pass, though, and Gobert with the dunk. You got Grant, Murray. Those guys need to get in there with more help. They left Jokic 1-on-2 underneath the rim. Murray Floater, nice play by Jamal Murray, changing pace so that O'Neal could not get back in front. Back to 23 here. Jokic switching out. Now he tries to get back. Another screen. Clarkson going at Jokic. Drops it off for Gobert. What a pass.
And they know exactly where the seam is going to be. Gobert with good timing and Jordan Clarkson just finding him. Gobert up to 24 points on 11 of 15 from the field.
Murray, three-pointer. Nice box out by Gobert. Clarkson looking to attack and make it 27 once more. He's got Gobert rolling. Mitchell, spot up three. Gets past Porter. Steps back. Three-pointer. Short. O'Neal keeps it alive.
Oh, how many offensive rebounds are they going to get?
They want to go at Mike Porter again. Clarkson has him. Porter on an island. Clarkson scores over him easily. I mean, just the Jokic-Porter combination, when those two guys on the floor, they are getting absolutely barbecued. Here's Morris on the drive. He goes to the floater and scores, but those mid-range floaters, those aren't going to make up a 27-point deficit.
No, I don't think anything is.
Mitchell has Porter again. Sizes him up. Porter saying, Grant, come over and help me. That leaves Niang wide open for the deep three. We'll take it to the end of the quarter. It looks like we could be about done.
I think we'll take it to the next stoppage.
Yeah. Yeah, Niang saying, you can't leave me like that, boys. You're going to just go double team? Jokic against Gobert again. Wants to get it to Porter. Mitchell denies him. Good help coming over from Clarkson. And now this is going to be showtime for Donovan Mitchell. Gets to the nasty dunk. And it is a 30-point Utah Jazz lead. An absolute, complete evisceration of the Denver Nuggets in Game 3.
Using the current stats by RG Hoops, 140.6 offensive rating for the Utah Jazz, 92.3 for the Denver Nuggets, and that's a 92.3 offensive rating when they're 11 of 28 from three in less than three quarters. Incredible. 13 turnovers, making 43% of their two-point shots. It's just brutal. And yes, Denver can play better, but I don't think they can play better enough.
Ainge for Brez on Twitch says, it's only a 10-possession game. Anything could happen.
That's true.
A couple other questions here we'll take before we go. Will there still be a Hollinger and Duncan podcast? Yes, absolutely. So we'll still have the NBA cast is going to be free. We'll still have one episode of Dunked On a week, and then Hollinger and Duncan and Real GM Radio also are. So we're still going to have, between the two of us, 3 podcasts a week, and we'll have these casts obviously during the playoffs and then hopefully next year as well. So thanks everyone for your commentary. I really appreciate that. If you haven't yet, check it out, dunked-on.supportingcast.fm. Also, if you are in a difficult financial situation, we are offering monthly pricing for that. You can send us an email, dunkedonprime@gmail.com. That won't actually be live until September 8th, so we may not get back to you until then, but just send us a couple of sentences about your situation. We don't need like your bank statements or anything. Just explain what's going on, and we are glad to help you out with some special pricing if you're in that kind of a situation. And next cast will be tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Portland Trailblazers, LA Lakers. We'll talk to you all then.